I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championships.
The rivalries, it's up there on top of the list, man. And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you.
Beau Atkinson. Beau Atkinson leaves Bill Belichick's North Carolina and comes to Ohio State to play for Matt Patricia's Buckeyes on defense. Keeping it in the family, this was Ohio State and Georgia. And as soon as Beau Atkinson publicly made the comment about being a big Christian guy and heard what they got going on up at Ohio State, this puppy was cooked right there. That's a culture guy right there. Atkinson, a kid coming out of high school who had the kind of pedigree who could have been an Ohio State recruit. I heard some people saying, he was a 3-star kid, like he made some huge jump. This guy was just barely a 3-star in 247's rankings. He was a 4-star at On3, a 4-star in the composite, a 4-star at Rivals. We're talking about a top 300 kid here. In the class of 2022, that's Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Logan George's class. Beau played pretty good football coming out of the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And we talked the other day about North Carolina punching above their weight. The On3 rankings came out for states with the most top 300 players, and North Carolina was just behind Ohio. Ohio had 16. They were ranked 5th. North Carolina had 15. They were ranked 6th. When I broke it down per capita, Ohio and North Carolina, dead tie. I couldn't get it to separate at all, like 4 numbers down. So I'm not going past 4. After the decimal point, you go 4. That's it. That's as far as I go. Beau Atkinson was the defensive player of the year in the state of North Carolina coming out of high school. He was 6'6", 240 at the time. So didn't draw a ton of attention, surprisingly. Penn State was what I would consider his biggest offer coming out of high school, but Penn State notoriously throws out a lot of offers they don't intend on honoring. So he goes to North Carolina, red shirts year 1, then the next 2 years plays himself a ton of football. This wasn't just a pass rush guy. He's a well-rounded dude, 6'6", 265 now. I heard someone say he doesn't look like he's 265. I could not disagree more. He absolutely looks 265 to me. He's really long, uses that length, play with his hand in the dirt, a lot of standing up as well. 610 snaps in the past 2 years, 54 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, 39 pressures. He's strong enough to set the edge in the run game, powerful enough to take it out on the inside shoulder and win. Pretty menacing dude. And as I said, it was down to Ohio State and Georgia. Pretty obvious to us right from the rip, based on his comments, that this guy was a better fit at Ohio State when he said that, right? Like that's a Buckeye. But he took his time. We've seen so many of these guys, particularly in this spring portal, and it always is like that. It moves so fast. They go to their first visit. Their first visit, boom, it's over. And when that happens, sometimes it might project that, okay, maybe they knew before they went into the portal, or maybe they just got a sweetheart of a deal and they signed right then and there. Not always the case, but I think it shows maturity when you take your time, weigh out your options, go and take all your visits. Don't get, caught up in the pressure sale of how this can probably be on their end of things. And I think Beau Atkinson represents a whole lot of things that Ohio State likes. I think he checks a whole lot of boxes that fit in with the program. So great news about Beau Jackson, and he's heading into his 4th year in college football and 2 years of eligibility left. That's awesome. Also, quite similar to the way Jack Sawyer wrapped up 2023 with that tear in the back half of the season. Most of Beau's production came in the back half of last year. We saw what Jack then did the following year in 2024. It looks like Beau's peaking and getting better. Now, Beau was playing in the ACC, not like Jack in the Big Ten. I'm not comparing him to Jack, but the trajectory of when you started to see it click for Jack, same time frame with Beau. So that's pretty promising. I think he might just be scratching the surface here. I was digging in on him, listening to a few interviews, one of which he was talking about trying to learn the defense where everybody else was around him and how it was helping him understand things. And when you hear guys talk like that, just reminds you of Cody Simon, Sonny Styles, dudes like that, purpose-driven, determined guys that are just going to be great pros because they're just locked in on what they got to do. Now, Why did you do this? I think a few reasons. Number one, you got a bunch of guys who have never shown it as starters or at this level in Logan George's case, or at this position in CJ Hicks's case. That just presents a whole lot of unknowns. And Beau Atkinson gives you some insurance there. It gives you some insurance to know, okay, this guy's at least done it, and we know that. We can see it on the film. So not to say that Kenyatta or Caden haven't done it. Kenyatta, we look at Beau's snaps, about 600 snaps. Kenyatta Jackson, for comparison, 300 last year. Caden Curry had about 220. So, certainly some experience, but they've not started. And this gives you a little bit of insurance here. Even if your guys are working well, if you hadn't have brought Beau in, one injury, say Kenyatta goes down, and you're in a sticky situation now with Logan George, CJ Hicks, and Caden Curry, bringing in Dominic Kirks or freshman Ziggy Grady in after that. So now you can go and rest easy that you've got another experienced dude, and the most experienced dude, in a pretty formidable looking room now, right? In addition to that, you can't just fill your needs in the portal, which was kind of how Ohio State was intending on going about this when it started, and would probably be the ideal way to go about it if the competition wasn't going and getting better in every single portal. If you just operate in the portal, going to get what you need, right? You missed, you don't got numbers, or you missed a few spots here, or missed on a couple of guys, they transferred out, and you're going to go replace them. That was kind of the intention of how Ohio State wanted to do this. But now you got Texas and Georgia and Oregon and Alabama who recruit just as good as Ohio State. And if Ohio State is only trying to get better through recruiting, and everybody else is upgrading one or two or three positions on each side of the ball through the portal, and you're not, you're going to fall behind. So you got to do it. I love that they did it. It was surprising that they were in on Beau Atkinson as early as, he's an expensive guy. And it definitely seemed like if there was a defensive tackle that they could have got some traction on, that they would have got it done, but it just didn't seem like that happened for them. There certainly weren't a lot of options, and it moved really fast. How does this affect the room? What pieces do you have in the room? You got fourth year now, Kenyatta Jackson, fourth year, Caden Curry, fourth year, Logan George, fourth year, CJ Hicks, fourth year, Beau Atkinson. All five of those guys, grown men from the class of 2022. Then you got third year, Joshua Mickens, who was injured all spring. Smaller guy, quicker guy, top 200 pedigree. Second year, Dominic Kirks, another top 200 guy out of Paynesville. Freshman, Zion Grady out of Alabama, who looked really good in the spring and physically looks like he can play right now. And freshman Epi Satanile, who has not made it into town yet. He's a little more wiry and skinny. It looks like he's got a little way to go physically before you could play him. But who's your top two guys now? I thought you were going to see a scenario where you had Kenyatta Jackson as your kind of clear number one, and then Caden Curry / Logan George is kind of maybe splitting on that other side. That was just my gut feeling on it. But now when I look at this, I love the way Caden Curry plays. I don't think he's a guy you want having out there 40 snaps. Obviously, he can improve, but I just feel like when you look at what Beau Atkinson brings physically, talent-wise, attitude, experience, I kind of feel like Kenyatta Jackson and Beau Atkinson are your two dudes here. These are the dudes, and Logan George, Caden Curry supplement there. Obviously, CJ Hicks right now, I would say, is below those four guys. Doesn't mean he can't improve. Maybe even Ziggy Grady as well. I actually think this might be better for CJ Hicks. If you are going to play him a little differently than as your standard rotational defensive end, I think it fits him much better. I think he'll have much better chance for success in that kind of a role. And it forces Matt Patricia now, okay, if we want to get this guy on the field, we got to figure out a way to get him on the field in a little more of a creative way, because we've got, you look at last year's defensive ends, you have five. You had obviously Jack and JT, and then you had Kenyatta, Curry, and Mitchell Melton, who I thought was going to have a good season coming into the preseason and into the season. I thought Mitchell Melton was going to be a real weapon. Mitchell Melton
a lot of talent. I think underrated talent. And we didn't get to see much of Mitch, so there's just not really room for that fifth guy, how the defense has been run. Maybe Patricia does it differently, but if you can find a specialized package or two to get CJ in there where he can blitz, I just don't see him. I never saw him obviously being a real impact player, just playing a 3-down defensive end role. Now it frees him up to maybe be something a little different. What's even more exciting is the 26 Buckeyes. When we look at this group, there's a lot of questions now, and those questions are going to be answered by the end of the season. And as we go into 2026, now all of a sudden you go from a really young, inexperienced team to an incredibly veteran team. And the only guys out of this group that we're talking about that will not have any eligibility left, CJ Hicks and Caden Curry. They're done after this year, which means next season in 2026, you have the potential to return Kenyatta Jackson, Beau Atkinson, and Logan George, all in their 5th year, grown-up dudes. And I love that so much when we're talking about linemen, like 5th-year linemen, just grown men, which they are right now, but add a whole nother year on top of that. So you look at those guys, you look at Ziggy Grady, and you're talking about, 5th year Atkinson, 5th year Kenyatta, both starting at Ohio State for their 2nd year in a row. Now, when we look at 2026, I think here's where it really gets excited, because you only got Caden Curry and CJ Hicks who are out of eligibility, which means you return, hopefully, Kenyatta Jackson, Beau Atkinson, and Logan George as 5th year guys. I can't stress enough how much I love these 5th year defensive linemen and offensive linemen, just these grown up dudes going against sometimes, 19 and 20-year-olds. It is not a fair ball game. That's like peak growth time in your life. Those years are so much different, particularly for those big guys. And we just see what an advantage that was for Michigan in 23, for Ohio State in 24. Look to see that for Penn State in 25. But those grown-up dudes who could be in the NFL but stay one more year, they're just dominant. And you're going to have 3 of them with Atkinson, Kenyatta, and Logan George. And then Ziggy Grady in year 2. That sounds like a pretty formidable 4, like the real deal. Hopefully it will be. And hopefully this is just the first Atkinson that we land in 2025. So good stuff, guys. I love it. Now, tomorrow we got a visit from today. I'm sorry. All right, let's move to Orion Johnson. Orion Johnson coming in to visit. This is he was out of Sam Houston State, freshman, All-Conference USA in 2023, starting at left tackle. 2024 starts for them at right tackle, enters the portal, coming to visit Ohio State today. He is also in on Houston in on him, and Houston has money to spend. It's his hometown. Will they end up winning out here, or will the allure of moving up in the world from Sam Houston State to Ohio State be really enticing to Orion Johnson? We'll find out what kind of dude he is and what he's about if he's willing to do that and roll up into a room that has now Ethan Onyanwa, Ian, Phillip Daniels, Austin Saravel, like Carter Lowe. You're now looking at a room with all of a sudden looks like it has quite a bit of depth and dudes that maybe not ready to start now with Ian Moore and Phillip Daniels, but dudes who are going to be dudes. And he would be with those guys. He's not coming in to start right now. He would be fighting with those guys to get one of those spots next year, Ethan Onyanwa, in his last year of eligibility. So, if he ends up coming to Ohio State, I think it shows a lot about him. You've also got the defensive tackle out of Georgia Southern, Troy Pikes, coming up. Troy Pikes just finished his true freshman year. Troy Pikes would be a depth piece, and that's fine because currently your defensive tackle group consists of K-Mac, Edric Houston, Jason Moore, Ty Malone, Will Smith Jr., Jarquez Carter. So that's 6. You're light on numbers. You might as well bring in another guy. Who knows? Maybe he can develop into something, but he's not coming in to help this year. For comparison, having 6 defensive tackles, Texas now has 10. And I only bring this up because I had a Texas fan come in here the other day. I thought I was pretty fair with Texas about, their plan here, what they were doing. I just said that it opens up the door potentially to be a risky situation when you put 5 new guys into a room. And his counter to that was, it's all younger guys in that room. Okay, well, number one, that makes it even worse. But he was saying that's why they needed to go get 5. Well, they have 10 defensive tackles now to Ohio State's 6. That's a whole lot of dudes. That's a whole lot of dudes in your defensive tackle group. Anyway, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to the show as we are trying to get off the number 13,000. Currently, 13,000 and some odd subscribers. I don't like that. It's unlucky. It makes me feel not so good. More than 50% of regular viewers of YouTube shows in general, like mine included, don't subscribe to the shows that they watch regularly. Now, if you're someone who doesn't subscribe to the shows you watch regularly, you should. It doesn't do anything but make the videos you like from the creators you like easier to find. When you open up YouTube, boom, up comes the next one from somebody you already like. And it helps the people out tremendously. So if you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and hit the like button while we're at it. If I was you, I'd even set the alarm bells, because when we go live here at JUCK on Bucks, it's sometimes random. And if you hit that alarm bell, it'll let you know anytime. And you can hop on in. Usually at the end of the show, we go for 30 to 45 minutes where I just let you guys run the show, take all the chat, and not just the ones who pay for it. I'll read all those, but I prefer to find the interesting stuff, which, can come with $1 or it just might not. Either way, but definitely set those alarm bells as well. And I like to incorporate your comments into the show a couple times a week too. So please leave those. Always have a good time reading your comments, guys. All right, now I want to get into what I hinted about at the end of yesterday's show. Brady Edmunds. You guys know Brady. Brady Edmunds, Ohio State's quarterback commit in the class of 2027. Just finished his sophomore year at Huntington Beach High School. The Oilers, they got sweet uniforms. They got the old logo for the Houston Oiler logo. It's pretty cool. Their colors are orange, black, and like a deep gray, and I really like it. So Brady, 6'5", 215, absolute howitzer for an arm. He's accurate. He's smart. If you listen to him on the show with me here, incredibly mature. This is a kid who said he committed after the game this year, and he said he had heard the Ryan Day noise in the interview that when he was on here. He said, yeah, he heard it, but ultimately he decided, whether Coach Day's here or not, I want to be at Ohio State. That is not something you hear from particularly out-of-state kids. This dude is a Buckeye, 2 generations removed. His grandfather, a Buckeye from Cuyahoga Falls here in Northeast Ohio. And it's just, it's very apparent that this dude just one of us, right? So he's one of us. So I got a little bitter when this happened, man. I got a little bitter. Now, when it comes to recruiting services, 24/7 on 3, just those two, not ESPN or Rivals, but 24/7 and on 3, they put a lot of money and a lot of investment into scouting players and running a proper service. And I think the last 5 years, they've gotten so much better than they've ever been. And they continue to get better. And I don't work for a recruiting service. I don't have any advertisement from a recruiting service. I have no reason to defend them. But I've also followed recruiting for a very long time, and I've seen the improvement myself, and it's documented. They grade themselves by the NFL draft, which is what it's set up to replicate. There's 32 5-stars. There's 32 first-rounders. There are 354 stars. Your 4 stars are to project if you're going to be an NFL player. So 257 draft picks and free agents, 404 stars, 350 to 400. And people will say things like, there's more 3 stars in the NFL than 5 stars. Yes, there are. As I just said, there's only 32 5 stars per class and 3,000 3 stars. If you are a 5-star, you have a 57% chance of getting drafted now. 57. That's a really nice hit rate. A 4-star, 20% chance. There's only 400 of them. 20% of them get drafted. If you're a 3-star, a 5% chance. You're dealing with a lot of variables here. People's bodies change a ton from the age of 16 when they first start getting rated to the time they head to the NFL.
But in totality, they do a really, really good job. And it's serious business, and there's tons of money in it. So they take it very seriously because the competition is fierce. Are there some politics in it? I think there always have been. I would say now, at the top of the quarterback board, offensive line, and defensive line, the money positions, the big buck positions, we are looking at some serious issues because you look at the NFL draft, the first quarterback off the board and the fifth quarterback off the board in the NFL draft, they command different amounts of money. And now you've got these quarterbacks coming out of high school, offensive linemen, being represented by real agents. Jackson Cantwell, the number one offensive lineman in the country, Drew Rosenhaus is his agent. Like that guy, that schmuck, Drew Rosenhaus is his agent. He's a high school kid. And these agents all do business together, and they all know exactly what everybody else is getting. And if I'm representing the number one offensive lineman or the number one or number two quarterback, and you're representing number 7, we're talking about our offers. And you better believe I'm going to get my guy more than you're going to get your guy if mine's number 2 and yours is number 7. So now there is huge money attached to those little numbers next to those guys' names at the top of the board, right? Now, some will laugh and some will scoff at the idea that any of this could possibly not be above board. And I'm not saying for sure that it isn't all above board, but I'm going to present this to you right now because I am just befuddled. Brady Edmunds, who we just talked about, look, when we talk about Devin Sanchez, I think that's as perfect of a cornerback as AI could make. And I mean from physical build to athletic, to family, to brains, to processing ability, to attitude. You couldn't do it any better than Devin Sanchez. That is like as perfect a prototype for a position as you could have. When you look at Brady Edmunds, man, he's not far off. I mean, he is not far off. And that's why Brady Edmunds was the number 2 quarterback in the class, 5-star, number 10 player overall in the country at the end of the season. He committed to Ohio State, and then they just redid their rankings. Now, all that's happened between the end of the season is the commitment to Ohio State and Brady killing it at the Elite 11 in Massillon, clearly being the best quarterback out there. That's all that's happened in that time frame. Well, the new rankings just came out, and Brady is now the number 11 quarterback in the country and number 130 overall. That's quite a drop. That's quite a drop. He's the only quarterback in the top 25 quarterbacks that are committed somewhere. The only one. Because once you've committed, you now serve no purpose to the news cycle. Some guys that jumped over him, Phillip Rivers' son, Gunner, LSU quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier's little brother, Colton Nussmeier, Israel Abrams. Israel Abrams was at that Elite 11 that Brady just destroyed, side by side with Brady. It is laughable that anyone would rate that kid over Brady. It's laughable 50% of these guys, including Phillip Rivers' son and Garrett Nussmeier's little brother, are rated above Brady. There's some of them you could make an argument, I like this better, you might like that better. Okay, but not 10 of them. Not 10 of them. He's pretty damn close to that Devin Sanchez style mold of this is an AI generated prospect. Some people will say this is because he committed to Ohio State. The truth is, we tend to feel that way. And when I say we, I mean college football fans in general about our school. Like, I know a lot of Ohio State fans feel that way. I read a lot of message boards, talk to a lot of fans from different places. They all feel the same way. Like Texas fans feel that way. Georgia fans feel that way. Alabama fans feel that way. Like everybody feels that way. And we look at them and we laugh. No, it's our guys. They feel the same way. Do we actually have evidence that happens to our guys more? It sure feels like it sometimes, though. We don't also recognize that these guys get the bump. Basically, 80% of the guys that we recruit that are 3 stars, but kind of on the borderline, they always finish the class as a 4-star. Like those guys always get bumped up. And we don't really pay much attention to that because they're not the super high rated guys. But when those super high rated guys drop, we certainly notice. There's no doubt about it. But what they just did to Brady pisses me off, man. And they redeemed themselves a little bit. A little bit. They had not rated David Gabriel-Georges yet. David Gabriel-Georges, the running back from Canada, from Quebec, then the Baylor School in Tennessee, who came up and visited Ohio State a couple of weeks ago. Class of 2027 kid, and I'm not really in on the 2027 kids right now, but I watched him because it looks pretty apparent that Ohio State right now is his number one school, and it was apparent to me that this guy could very well be the number one back in that class. He's different. I said he'll be a number 3 back by every service at the end of the class. Their initial ranking on him was number 3, so they redeemed themselves a little bit with that. But what we just saw with Brady Edmunds was it was crooked. There's something up, man. There's something going on. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying it's Ohio State. I'm not saying money's changing hands for something to happen. I'm not saying it's nepotism for Phillip Rivers' son, or he's got connections, or Colton Nussmeier, but something happened because Brady didn't get anything but better, and 10 dudes didn't just get better than him in the last 3 months. So anyway, that's my spiel. We've seen a lot of walk-ons leave Ohio State recently, and not a lot, a handful of walk-ons. That's normal. These guys want to go play. I wish them well. TC Caffey in particular, I love that dude. You look at Patrick Gerd last year, or earlier in the previous portal, he left too. Like, I love those guys. Now, there is also the fact that there are some of these guys, as the roster moves from 120 to 105, who are being told by the coaches at Ohio State and every other school, listen, we want to help you out. People are going to be looking for guys when the portal opens. Let's get you out there in front of as many people as possible, because we don't think there's going to be a spot for you once we're forced to make this cut. So I suspect there are a couple of them who have had that conversation, and maybe some of them who just recently entered the portal. But that's coming, we've been told, and that's what's going to be happening for everybody really, really soon, we've been told. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. So the settlement is it's been preliminary agreed upon, right? The huge settlement. Part of the settlement is this change in numbers from 120 guys with 85 scholarships to 105 all scholarships, should you choose. They can be partial scholarships after 85, but no more walk-ons. So the judge is reviewing the case, and she's got a problem. She's got a problem. There are two groups. One of them is on behalf of these walk-ons. And I'm not just talking football walk-ons, but in every sport, they're losing a lot of numbers of players. Like, walk-ons are getting kicked out. And there's a group representing all these players. And then there's the NCAA on this side. And the judge is very irritated that the NCAA has been acting as though this thing is already getting passed, and they're axing these walk-ons. And this side over here, the players and the people on behalf of them, are proposing that they grandfather in the people that are already on the team. Like, you don't need to make this cut now. Let these people funnel out of your program, but let them stay. Seems like a fair, honorable, nice thing to do. So the NCAA kicked it around with the member institutions. Remember, the NCAA are the schools, right? The NCAA member institutions make that up. Okay. It's Ohio State, it's Michigan. It's the member institutions that are the NCAA. I think sometimes we look at it as this like monster that overrules college football, and put like, it is them overruling themselves. So they talked to the member institutions and said, hey, how's about we grandfather these people in and let them stay? And the NCAA came back and said, we talked to those folks, the member institutions, and they said it would cause a significant disruption. So instead of trying to work with these kids, hundreds of thousands of NCAA walk-ons, and letting them stay at their school, they're saying it's going to be a bother for them. I don't know what, to calculate the numbers or something. They're saying it's going to be a bother. We'd rather have them out on the street, even though the judge seems to be just fine with it if they allowed him to grandfather it in. So she told these people, the people representing the kids and the NCAA folks, that because of the preliminary approval, it was improper. They should not have done what they did, letting these kids go yet. And now she's delaying the final approval of the whole deal over this. And she told both parties, the NCAA and the people representing all these students, to go sit at the table with the mediator and try to come to an agreement, which I think is amazing. I love this judge. I hope this works out, that it can grandfather in those kids and they can stay at their schools, because that is just some treacherous garbage right there, to have the opportunity to keep them and say, no, we're just going to let them go anyway. I hate it. The University of Oregon has lost their top-rated offensive lineman in the class of 2026 as he flips to rival Washington. This is a kid who's been committed to them for quite a while from Sammamish, Washington. G. Scott Jr., JT Tuimoloau's hometown. But it's Oregon, Miami, and Georgia who are in on number one offensive tackle in the country, Jackson Cantwell. Oregon also one of the finalists for Emmanuel Ahianachu, the number 2 offensive lineman in the country. I've been pretty clear on how I feel about these types of offensive linemen at this point in time. I think it's too much on the budget. I think it's too risky to use that much of the budget on these guys. I think you can get 2 top 300 tackles and a top 300 guard, and one of those guys is going to pop for you just as much as that one tackle. Like, I just think it's way too much. They've priced themselves out of the market. And if I was running a program, I wouldn't be after them. Yeah, sure, you can win the recruitment, but you can't win it without matching these ridiculous offers. And I'm not playing ball when I'm only working with this much amount of money. Now, Jackson Cantwell got a decision to make. Probably going to be between Georgia and Oregon. Jared Curtis, the number 1 quarterback in the country, also got a decision to make. He was a Buckeye lean before Corey Dennis left, kid out of Tennessee, but he will decide between Georgia and Oregon. You and I are rooting very hard for Georgia to win those 2 kids, not just because Oregon's in the Big Ten. I do strongly think they lead for both of those kids, but their top insider does not think that if they are able to land Jared Curtis and Jackson Cantwell, that they'll be able to afford the number 1 backer in the country, Tyler Atkinson, who is the only one of those 3 that Ohio State is really in on. And it looks like to me it's Georgia kind of sitting in pole position for Atkinson, then Ohio State and Clemson kind of dingling right there. Now, he's got some others on the board, but it's Ohio State and Clemson that I think are right there at the top with Georgia. If Georgia can't afford him, they're out. And when you talk about Tyler Atkinson, you can go back the last 10 years and look at the number 1 linebacker, stack them all up. The number 1 linebacker in each class for the last 10 years and put them next to each other. Like, Tyler Atkinson's in the top 3 of that group of number 1 linebackers. He's not just a number 1 linebacker. Like, he is different any year. And this is a guy who is walking in Georgia, Clemson, Oregon, Ohio State, and he's on the field year 1. He's an absolute freak. He's aggressive. He's so fast. It's, you look at really fast kids at that age, like guys coming out of high school, you look like a Riley Pettijohn, different. Atkinson's just different than guys we've seen for a long time. I mean, he loves Laurinaitis. So the best thing that could happen as we look at these 2 recruitments with Drew Rosenhaus's client, Jackson Cantwell, and Jared Curtis, superstar quarterback to be, is if they go to the Dogs. Because if they go to the Dogs, it gives us one more leg up in that recruitment of Tyler Atkinson. All right, friends, that's our show today. I appreciate you so much. We'll have some more to talk about this weekend, I'm sure. Not positive when we'll do that. Maybe Saturday at like noon. Probably a live show, but hope to see you guys then. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. JUCK and Bucks out.